this dinner is always on the last Friday of October. This time round, it will be on 30th, and we are just shopping for suitable venues, thinking of Panafri, thinking of Panari, and others. It's going to be bigger and better than last year. And we also have some other charity that we do. We visit a children's home and mentor them in June, first Saturday of June, and also celebrate Christmas with them in December, first Saturday of December. So we have a lot of activities, and usually they are pre-planned so that you don't wake up and say, that was short notice. No. And you can always start subscribing for the dinner as early as today. And we also welcome sponsors to join us and work with us on this. So thank you, and welcome to see all of you. I will welcome Nancy for the poem of the day, and then we move on. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we are doing well. It's a beautiful Monday morning. And we demystify the fact that Mondays are boring days. But let me tell you, Mondays are beautiful days, especially when you log into Power Monday. You couldn't miss to be powered for the week. You set the pace for your growth. Today, I'm doing a simple poem titled The Journey. The journey as it has been for Power Monday. Since the peak of COVID-19 to date, it's been 6 years, and oh my God, a baby that is 6 years is an all-grown baby going to school. And thank you for the founders for heeding to the voice of the Lord. And I know that was God that spoke to you about this forum. So the journey. I set my feet upon the road at dawn very early. With questions packed like stones I bear, the night behind me slowly gone. Ahead was a path of hope and prayer, a prayer that I made, will I make it through the journey? The wind became my honest guide. It whispered truths and lies. I feared, I walked without courage, but yet I stepped forward. I made a step at a time. The journey. I stumbled a place where shadows lay. I learned from falls upon the ground, from every loss in the way. I hid my strength, but I slowly found me through the journey. And I met some souls who walked beside me. I borrowed their light and shared their delights. Through time and fate will make us slide. Their names still travel through my sight. Like Power Monday, I couldn't miss the work. At the crossroads, kept by fear and choice, I paused to hear my inner call. It was quiet yet determined. I wanted to venture into my journey. The storms arrived. With heavy rain, they tested my heart and my weary will, yet pain became my shaping chain. I forged forward with courage that is within me, the journey. I learned that the end is not a place, but a motion held in open hands, and the truth revealed in steady pace. The growth is born where one still stands, the journey of life that I keep trading, that I keep finding the travels, the journey, a beautiful journey of life. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And they say the Lord rejoices to see the journey begin, the small beginnings. And we are blessed, we are happy and grateful to have you gracing grace every morning. Thank you very much. Could we have somebody to introduce the guest. Cynthia, I'm told you are the one.
Yes, I have the honor of introducing our speaker today. Good morning, everyone.
Good
So
morning.
today's speaker, she has a strong background in commercial law, SME advisory, conveyancing, intellectual property, and compliance. And she's built a reputation for delivering clear, practical, and business-aligned legal solutions. She holds a Bachelor's of Law and a postgraduate diploma in law from the Kenya School of Law. She has further specialized training in legal audits and compliance, data protection, and business advisory, a blend that allows her to support SMEs, startups, and investors, professionals as well, with both legal clarity and strategic insight. She's a member of the Law Society of Kenya and also an active professional in global networks, including BNI, where she represents the legal category, and Rotary. And she also serves in leadership roles within the Rotary Club of Milimani. She's recognized for her commitment to excellence, integrity, well, integrity being a thorny issue in this country, and her contribution to business growth within her networks. She has also delivered keynote talks, like she's going to deliver today. She's facilitated masterclasses and built strong referral partnerships, both locally and internationally. Her vision is to build a future-ready law firm that empowers businesses to thrive through clarity, structure, and a legal foresight, while at the same time expanding access to legal education for SMEs and women entrepreneurs. She's driven by core values of integrity, accountability, excellence, service, and empowerment principles that not only shape her work, but also her leadership and every client relationship that she has. Well, she has a key to success quote, guys. Here it is. Business thrives where clarity, structure, and integrity meet. Her mission is to help entrepreneurs build legally sound businesses that win. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Ms. Sylvia Ngene, who is the managing partner at Ngene Associates Advocates, a commercial law that she founded 5 years ago. So she's going to take us through making law your friend, ensuring you're protected and not exploited. Karibu sana, Madam Sylvia.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, for that introduction. It's such a pleasure to be with you this morning. And when OPP invited me to talk about this, and I was like, will I be able to cover all that it entailed? And just to ensure that I am not speaking a lot of jargons, because as lawyers, that is one of the biggest challenges that we face. However, when I was thinking about this, I was like, from a point of view as a lawyer, what I realize is it's all about the mindset and how we look and interact with the law. So today it's much more, we'll just be discussing more of that. You won't hear of any legalist terms that I'll be talking about, but just how can we, it's a discussion on how can we make the law our friend, or how can we integrate the law and make it a part of our businesses, a part of our lives, to ensure that we are thriving and that we do not see it as a hindrance to what we are doing. I have shared my screen. I hope we can all see it. Can we see it?
Yes, we can see it. Is it
All right.
PPT or it's Word?
It's a PowerPoint. It's I think PDF or something.
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode, but if that is what you intended, that's fine.
Yeah. Don't mind the presentation. Listen to me as we hear. Do not listen to the voice as we sing. Just the
Good,
words.
good.
All right. Thank you very much. So, how can we use the law to empower our business? a question I would like to pose to us: how many times have we maybe received a contract and we look at the pages and we tell ourselves, well, I think I'll just have to sign whatever it says because I am not going to read through all this? Or you just ask yourself, maybe your main concern is, have they indicated the amount we have agreed on? Say that is the main, maybe you're just concerned about the payment. So you look at where the payment clause is and it says, and the correct amount is there, and you're like, okay, we are good to go. How many of us have done that? I see there's someone who's raised their hands. Yeah, because this is what happens most of the time. You find we are not concerned to find out what is it that we are signing, what does it say. And even if you ask yourself, what do you think the other pages are saying, don't you think they're important for you to know what what they are saying? Anyway, so we find, what I have found from experience is that most of entrepreneurs tend to fear lawyers or tend to fear what the law says. And of course, they have their reasons or background as to why they feel that. Most of the time, you find maybe they think lawyers are expensive. I think that is one of the key things I've had. You hear someone say, but you lawyers are very expensive. When I come to you, you'll start charging me a lot of money. Of course, there's also the issue of legal jargons. You find that maybe there are a lot of terms that you do not understand. Maybe for that, you need to understand that the law borrows heavily from Latin. So we find ourselves borrowing a lot of terms from that language, which is incorporated into the English language. But nevertheless, that should not be a reason why we are afraid. You'd rather ask for clarity or to be explained to what this means than sign something you do not know. The other reason you find is that most people approach lawyers as firefighters. Instead of looking at them, we tend to be more reactive instead of proactive. Instead of thinking, how can we incorporate these services into our businesses before before problems arises? Because you find if you do not do that, you will always have the same problem. You'll always have expensive legal fees. You will always feel time, it's taking a lot of time, because by the time you're getting to a lawyer when there are problems, it's a bit too late. Then what I've realized is some of these problems could actually be prevented even before you get to where you're firefighting. So what I usually tell people is, can we look into incorporating these services before the problem arises? Because of course, there are real consequences of not incorporating lawyers early enough, or not having to understand what you're putting your signature into. What I've seen over time is some of the consequences that you get for not incorporating lawyers goes beyond even fees, or the legal fees that you would pay. A good example is and I've seen in many instances, is you have, say, an employee, they have done something wrong and you're no longer happy with their services, and you're like, you let them go. But you've not consulted even a HR professional or even a lawyer on the termination process. Say you were even paying them 30,000 Kenya shillings a month, and you could comfortably pay them. And maybe you had your valid reasons and they were right reasons to let go of this person, but you did not follow the procedure on how you terminated them. Then what happens after that is you fire them, they take you to court. And now, after you've been sued, after being sued, what happens? You now rush to a lawyer. At the point you're coming to a lawyer, a lot of things have already happened, and they are asking for so much money, and maybe even the lawyer is not able to help you at that point, or they'll do their best, because at the end of the day, lawyers, are not magicians. We have to follow what the law says. Then the court decides that you have to pay this person a million Kenya shillings. Someone, maybe you are paying 30,000 a month, or whatever amount you're told to pay them. And it's because that you did not actually follow the right procedure that is required. We have seen now that means your business will face a financial crisis. Of course, you don't have that peace of mind, and many other things that happen there. So there's a real issue if you do not incorporate some of these services into our business. And I feel like from experience, this comes from a fear-based mindset. And I've said we are more reactive rather than proactive. And we find that we tend to do some of these things just to avoid penalties. So we say, it's just the way we have to file our KRA returns so that you just don't get fined. So how can we move our mindset from a fear-based compliance to strategic, or we are more proactive? Just ask yourself, how does fear-based compliance look like? Are you just signing for the sake of signing? Are you saying, let's sign this so that we just move along? Are you saying, we don't need to call a lawyer at this point. Let someone review this contract internally. Are we copy and pasting documents online and incorporating them into our businesses? Do you do even an audit of your business? Because that is how proactive strategy or compliance looks like. Do you have do you do an audit of your business every so often to see, are there gaps in your business? Are you really intentional of your business and how the law affects your business? Do you understand certain changes that are being effected that really affect your business? So we really need to change our mindset and become more proactive rather than being reactive to legal matters. Having said all this, and just moving beyond all the jargon and the fears that we might have, it is essential to ask ourselves. So she's saying all this. So what do I need to know? Say I'm signing a contract. What is the thing that I need to look out for? When we move past all that, we need to embrace contracts and understand, what do they do for us? What do they say? And how can I protect myself? So for me, I'd say some of the key things we need to be thinking about or looking into as business owners, the fundamentals of how we can protect our interests. These are some of them that I'll briefly just go through. One of them is the scope of what you're doing. So when we talk about scope, you should be asking yourself, what is my obligation here? What am I required to do? This really needs to be clear. You don't want a contract where you're being told and any other maybe duties, or those vague terms that tend to be included, because that is where you get exploited. What are you ask yourself, what am I actually responsible for? And that will be when you answer that question very clearly, you'll now be able to say, these are the parameters. I'm supposed to supply 1, 2, 3, or I'm supposed to provide 1, 2, 3 services. The other thing you need to ask, then the other key element is usually payment, and that this is where the bone of contention usually is, payment or consideration. For this, ask, when is this payment due? How is payment being done? And under what circumstances are these payments being made? So the timing, the conditions, and the penalties. Of importance to think about is avoid, and I've seen this in many circumstances, and this end up being a litigation matter issue, when you find that payment terms are tied maybe to third-party obligations. So a client, maybe you're providing certain services or products or goods, and then a client tells you, I'll pay you once I am paid, or I'll pay you once this happens. I think that is a red flag that you really need to be keen about, because your provision of services, unless you're part of that contract with that person, should not affect your payment, because you're not part of that business. So ask yourself, when are these payments need to be made? And if you see they're being contingent to them being made, is it something you're comfortable with? And again, are you in control of those terms that you're being given? If the answer is no, you should not accept such terms. The other thing is termination. So we've done this contract. What happens? I think as lawyers, we tend to be looked at as pessimists. We are always looking at bad case scenario, what happens? But this is how you'll be able to protect yourself. What happens when maybe I'm no longer able to provide these services? Or what happens when maybe the circumstance change? So what happens when you want to walk away from this contract? When should you be able to walk away? And what is the cost of walking away? So these are things you need to be alive to any contract and ask yourself those critical questions, because believe it or not, they usually come back to haunt you, or they usually come back at a certain point. An example I've seen from practice is the time frames for giving a notice for termination, because really they affect you. Let's use an example. Say a client has asked you to provide them with 10,000 laptops. I'm just using it as an example. You do not have that capacity to have those 10,000 to provide those 10,000 laptops, but because you are assured that they have a contract somewhere, you go take a loan to buy those 10,000 laptops. You take those 10,000 laptops and you go provide them to your client. Then your client, at some point, when you're in the process, or you've already signed the contract and you've already gotten your loan, and you're now in the process of procuring, or you started, maybe you are to do them in batches, and you're here now dispersing those laptops to your client, they tell you, I don't think we need 10,000, we need 5,000 laptops at this point. What happens at that point? Did you think about the termination and what you see the impact that really it has on your business? You procured all these laptops because your client asked for them. You've gone ahead, you've taken a loan to finance them, and now your client is telling you, I don't need all this. Where do you take the rest of the other laptops that you had procured? And maybe you had hoped from that payment you will repay. So these are very crucial elements of why you need to be keen about how do we go about this termination and what is the consequences of terminating. The other thing is on the issue of liability. So who carries the risk when things go wrong? And this is very prevalent, especially where there are other parties involved. If it's a construction project, you need to be very alive to this fact that something could go wrong. So who takes the risk? And even in your business, you need to ask yourself, what are the risks that are in my business, and what am I able to absorb and what am I not able to absorb? So this is also a very crucial thing to think about. When I was approached and when I was talking to OPP, he mentioned something to do with intellectual property. And I'm really passionate about intellectual property. The reason being is that here locally, we don't take intellectual property very seriously. Maybe let me pose to Dr. Rilek today. Who owns the rights to the beautiful poem that you have just given us today, this morning? Is it your product, or is it a product of Power Monday? Just putting it out there. So I think we don't look at intellectual property as asset that brings us income, or maybe it's the conditioning that it's not an asset. However, intellectual property is actually asset. If you're a coach running a business and you have content, who owns that content? Do you give it to your social media manager, or even maybe you have social media accounts and they have content there? Who is preparing the content and who owns that content? These are some of the things we need to be asking ourselves. In contracts, who owns that product? Even in business, even in our business, someone has come up with a new idea in your business, maybe an employee. What does your contract with your employee say about intellectual property that is created during the term of their employment? These are crucial issues that you need to think about. Moving on, I think the other biggest problem is usually dispute resolution. And I like posing this to my client and telling them, imagine you're having a problem with someone, and then now you're having maybe a problem in terms of payment or whatever the case might be, and now you want to agree on how you're going to resolve that problem. Do you think the best time to have to agree on how you're going to resolve a problem is during the when the problem is there or before the problem arises? I do know that the answer to that should be before the problem arises. Because what happens is, if you decide to say that you're going to agree on the dispute resolution mechanism during the time of the problem, you're not going to agree on it. So it is very important to agree beforehand. How are disputes going to be resolved in the instance that they arise? And have ways to ensure that these disputes do not take so much time to be resolved. So saying you're going to mediate, you're going to arbitrate, or even if it's going to depend on the nature of the problem, have those dispute resolution mechanism agreed on beforehand. So as we move along, some of the questions that you really you need to ask yourself before you sign anything is, clarity. Have clarity. I cannot overemphasize the issue of clarity. You don't want vague terms. You do not want to have vague clauses in them. So you need to say, you need to know, does this contractually clear define all the key terms? Because if something is vague, how are you going to be able to enforce it if it's not clear? And in terms of also clarity, you need to also understand, because how are you going to enforce something that you really don't also understand? And then again, the other thing is consequence. So what are the consequences of what you're signing, of what you're agreeing to, of all these terms? So what are the potential risks if I agree to this? If I agree that I'm going to be able to deliver within 10 days, what if I don't deliver within the 10 days that I have said? So those are things you need to be alive to. Then the other things you need to ask yourself, what other alternatives do I have? Are there better options available for me in this agreement? So why are we looking at it that way? So because you want the best possible outcome out of it. You want to have the best option so that you're also not finding yourself in problems. So I think when you're thinking about contracts or agreements or business decisions, these are some of the things that we need to actually think about. As I'm moving forward to the issue of asset, and I think I had touched a bit about assets. The thing on how do we sometimes as business owner find ourselves in problem is because we want to not to be tied by the terms that we are agreeing to. We want to also be a bit flexible, or we think we are sort of protecting ourselves by not signing those contracts, because you're saying, I don't want to tie myself down. But it works both ways. You won't tie yourself down, and the other party also won't tie themselves down. Yet you've entered into an agreement. We tend to like those verbal agreements. We call them gentleman's agreement. But when it comes down to it, do we even remember some of the things that we agreed on? Because if it's not written, how do you say that conclusively this is what we had agreed on? So it's very important to shift our mindset from that and have clear, written down contracts that really help us. You need to avoid being those informalities. Just have something. It doesn't need to be complicated. It's just something simple that you can agree on. So some of the ways we can use actually the law for the growth of our businesses, and when I'm talking about businesses here, I think most people assume businesses are big business, like you've been well established, you've been running your business, I don't know for how many years. No, you could be it could be your side hustle. You do some DIY projects and you sell some maybe jewelry online or some art somewhere. It could be it's your side hustle here. Maybe you have your day job, you have a side hustle of maybe a consultation gig somewhere. That is a business in itself. It's just that we do not look at it that way. And when I now even just mentioning that, have we done the proper structures in our business in terms of how our business is set up? Because we also need to separate ourselves from our businesses, because remember, these are two separate entities. And also in light of that, if you're maybe with other people, how have you structured decision making? Do you have proper agreements with even maybe your partners or shareholders? If you're having a partner, do you have a partnership agreement? And so on and so forth. And even when these contracts that I'm talking about, particularly with our clients, you can use those contracts to ensure that you're well protected and that revenue is always streaming in, because I think for businesses that is usually the biggest problem. So when we are talking about that, is in that, when I think I had highlighted when we were talking about payments, the timelines for payment, milestone. And I think it's important to think about, even for your payments, to say, when we do maybe to this level, we will be paid a certain amount. When we move to the next level, we will be paid the next tranche of money and all that. And even penalties. Ask yourself, what are the penalties? What if, ask yourself, what if this person does not pay me when they are required to pay? What happens? So you should have a clause to that effect, and clear enforcement. How do I go about getting this amount if I'm not paid? So as we move along, I was talking about asset and protecting your asset, and I think I had mentioned on the issue of intellectual property, and ideally protecting your assets. It's not just the land, the house, and the idea of asset that we have in mind. As in today's business and in today's digital world, assets include that brand. That brand can enable you grow. A good example I use is, when you look at some of these businesses that you think and ask yourself that are everywhere, do you think that they are owned by the same person? One of the biggest, and I like going back to this example, is, let's use the example of KFC. KFC, it's an international organization and they are in many countries. But do you think it's owned by the same person over and over in all countries? Probably not. Probably they're franchising the business. So if you've really grown your brand and you are out there and you want to expand, one of the ways to think of expansion could be franchising your business model. And how do you franchise your business? Is if you have a good brand that you've built and you have registered intellectual property against it, so that you don't want to find someone opening another KFC joint somewhere in the bundles there, and they're saying it's KFC and does not have the same standards as KFC. This is just for example purposes. You could be even running, say, a photography business. You've grown and you're not able to, maybe you would want to move from Nairobi, but you're not able to do that. You could open another branch maybe in Nakuru, Mombasa, and collaborate with other people to do so. But it means that maybe you need to have had your brand, grow in such a way that it is identified and known by people. And to be able to leverage and make money off it, you need to have registered that brand. Also, content is another thing. We know there's a lot of content online nowadays. People are consuming a lot of information, especially for people in the service industry. Content is very key. So the content that you're putting out, have you trademarked? Is it your content, or are you stealing someone's content, or are you able to protect your content? And data and digital presence in today's interconnected landscape. So these are some of the things we need to be asking ourselves when it comes to asset protection and and just the digital world that we live in. So Also, we need to understand, and I think this is where the issue of something that I'm also very passionate about, data protection. Do we understand how we utilize data in today's world, in today's digital world? What are the risks that are available? As it is, content online on social media is being taxed. There's a digital tax. Are we aware of that? And do we know how it's going to be paid? So, organizations in other countries are required to pay digital tax if they're advertising here locally. So you need to ask yourself, what are also the tax requirements or certain things that I need to know in other jurisdiction for the content that I'm posting out there. So because we don't want to expose our businesses to exploitation, and also we don't want to find ourselves where we are breaking a law and we do not know. So these are some of the risks that you need to understand, and some of them I am aware and I'm alive to the fact that you might not know, and that is why there are professionals like us. Sorry, like us lawyers. Sorry about that. Like us lawyers to just guide you through that and to ensure that you're well protected. Um, I wouldn't want to spend so much time on that. However, I think I have touched on how we can use law for growth. This ideally is leveraging the legal frameworks that can lead to increased scaling and enhanced credibility. And I think one of the things, especially for startups, is I tell them, if you set your business well, you have proper structures, and as you're growing, you're doing what is required from a legal perspective. For example, you have proper structures, you've registered your business, there are clear structures, there are clear decision making, there are clear policies in your business, you've registered that, you have registered intellectual properties. It makes it a lot easier for funders to come and tap into your business and grow because they do not have unnecessary risks. From experience, I do know funders want to know whether, for example, intellectual properties within the business are registered, because they do not want to take over something or to invest in something that later might be taken away from you just because you have not registered that intellectual property. So we've talked about this when I was talking about just being intentional about your business and how you're setting it up. A lot of us, I do know, and I'm aware that we start businesses as side hustles. Most of us, not all of us, maybe have even registered our businesses from the get-go. You started doing this as a hobby, then it grew, or you were doing it as part-time. Well, you still had the main job, and you've not really thought about uh, ensuring that the business is registered and what it actually means to register the business and what type of vehicle you're registering for your business and the consequences of doing that. So I think these are critical things to think about. And of course, even you as a consumer, look for as a consumer yourself, maybe of products. I don't know how many of us, for example, I know I do this when I go to Instagram. I'll go and maybe I want to buy something online. I'll check when was this business on Instagram, how long it has been in existence. There's a way you can check. And I'll even check if it has changed its name a couple of times. Why am I doing this? I don't want to pay for something, then I get conned because, say, it's an non-existent business. So how, as a business owner, can you increase confidence for your consumers? Some of these things is by having proper structures and having a well-established business. And at times we think of that and think those are big things, not necessarily, but by structures is, do you have a clear procedure of telling your clients this, from maybe ordering, these are the steps that will be taken before the product reaches to you, or this is what we do before we serve you, or by the time you're getting the services that you need. Those are things that build confidence with your consumer, and it's in the way of even you set structures and also how you make business decision. So some of the things that maybe this morning we can think about and see whether we have incorporated in our business. So I would like to conclude by doing like a summary of what we've talked about this morning. And mostly importantly, we've talked about reviewing the contract and just ensuring that we have a clarity of mind of what it actually entails. Ask yourself the three questions. What are my responsibilities here? How am I going to be paid? Or what are the payment terms? And even if I want to leave, how do I leave? And what are the consequences of leaving? So these are some of the things you need to be alive to. Ask questions, by the way. Don't be afraid to look ignorant or to feel like you're being difficult. Ask those questions before so that they do not bring problems later. And finally, and very important, is seek advisory support. Let's move our mindset from lawyers are expensive. Lawyers are for big matters, big projects, and so on and so forth. Imagine lawyers as people you can incorporate in your business even before problems begin, because once you do that, it becomes easier to work with you and ensure that you're always protected. And in fact, it is more affordable at that point, and unlike coming when now things have gone haywire and now you're looking to be assisted at that point. So I hope I have been able just to change your mindset on the issues this morning, and just to be able to look at it differently. I was not coming to give you a lecture on the law, but just how we can incorporate legal services into our business and how they help us to grow our businesses. At this point, I'd like to open the floor to any questions that you might have, and see how I'm able to support you and maybe give you some clarity on that.
Thank you very much, Wakili Rotarian Sylvia. Sylvia is the secretary for our club, and I'm happy to have her in the club. We are doing great things, and thank you for that, that sharing. It was lovely. Now, there is a question here from Susan. Susan is a counselor. And Susan says, I was contracted to offer counseling services to a company. After providing all the information requested, they told me we were good to go. They sent their first client, but I reminded them that we had not signed any contract. And then they said, don't worry, go ahead and start, we shall pay. I incurred expenses. Many calls later, all went silent. Any hope of getting my little penny? That is a question. Is there any hope? Or was my company information meant to be used for other purposes? That is Susan Kithika, Hill Africa Counseling Center.
Well, that is such a good question, OPP, and that is one of the biggest problems that I see that many businesses face. In fact, you find that at times people will tend to ask for advisory, or they'll just ask for questions and they ask for details. You're just providing, and then at the end of the day, you're not paid because you did not have anything tangible, or maybe even those people were just doing that to just get information that they needed. Um, for this case, was there even a draft contract that you had agreed on? Maybe just before I even ask whether I even answer whether you're able to recover your money at that point, you as a business owner, you should be able to tell someone we are not able to proceed until we have an agreement in writing of the terms that we are agreeing on. If they are not going to hand you over those terms for you to review, have one internally that you share with your clients and tell them, before we can proceed, kindly let us have this document signed on how we are going to proceed. You can be diplomatic about how you say it. Of course, you don't want to chase clients away, but also you don't want to leave yourself exposed. On the question, are you able to recover pennies? definitely you can be able to recover something out of it if you had things in writing to show what extent you had done and whether they had been approved by the client. Because if you were doing this and the client had not approved them, then there is no meeting of mind. We say a contract is where two minds meet and you've agreed. These are the scope of work I'll be doing for this payment and so on and so forth. So if there was no meeting of mind, you cannot enforce something like that. But if you have maybe a communication trail showing that you told them this is what you're doing and they agreed to it, or they did not say no, or they said okay, proceed or something of the sort, then you have a legal basis to say, I need to be paid an X percentage of this for the work already done or covered. So, and again, I think this highlights why it's really important to have a contract, because if the contract was there in the first place, it would have clearly outlined when and how you need to be paid.
Beautiful. And by the way, as you've said, just need to have some paper trail. There was this, there was this, there was this, then it would be possible to, including email, just email whatever, including WhatsApp.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, somebody, Pastor JK Sang has asked, is brand registration same as business name reservation or business name registration?
Thank you for that. And I think this is one of the most common misconceptions that I have encountered. Brand registration and business registration are not the same. So, a business registration is you registering the entity that you're doing the business with. So you can register it as a sole proprietor, you being the person who's doing the business. You can register it as a company. You can register it as an NGO. You can register, there are different forms. Those are just types of businesses that you register. So say I register the business ICT Gurus East Africa, for example, as a company. I have registered that business. But how does ICT Guru East Africa brands and appears to its consumers or to the public? So it has the image of the lion on it, and it has its tagline, putting your business online, and the name ICT Gurus East Africa. So all those three combined together is your brand and how you have put yourself out there. But your business name could be ICT Gurus East Africa, but you have the lion, ICT Gurus East Africa, and putting your business online, all of those three together, making it the brand. Now that has to be registered separately as a trademark. That is not a business name. That is a trademark because it's a brand. You even find a business could have so many brands. Let me give an example. We know these flour companies, right? Flour, I mean unga, that makes different types of flour. They have maize flour, they have chapatis, porridge. They have different brands. So you could find there's X multi-purpose self-raising. I don't know, there's X mandazi, there's whatever, the different brands that they have. But the company could be Unga something limited, but they have different brands. All those brands are registered as brands with a trademark brand. So a brand is separate from its company, and you need to register it separately once you've built your own brand. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that answered very well. I know the next question somebody has in mind is, what does it cost to register a brand?
Well, they can see me behind the tent. We are able to discuss that.
And on that note, you can also put your contacts in the chat for further
Okay.
consultations.
Yes.
Yes, and now somebody has said that is Gashoka. As someone who works with different businesses on growth and sustainability, risk management cost a lot, including total stagnation. Fear has also made owners miss opportunities of qualified human resources. When you get fired, that is from Mugithi Shiro, When you get fired from employment and terms of contract not met in terms of final dues, is there a timeline? You can say it's too late to chase your money.
Well, there is something we call limitation of acts. And limitation of acts, okay, this is in Kenya, maybe it varies from different countries. There is a time frame for following your claims. So you find for contracts, once a contract is past 6 years, you cannot claim it from the time the action arose. So maybe if you're supposed to be paid this year and you wait over 6 years to follow up on that, you're not able to claim it. So there are many other things. Under the Employment Act, there's a limitation of period of 2 years on when you're able to follow up. But I would also need to do the exact details. However, for your final dues, you're supposed to be paid immediately when you're leaving. So if they don't pay you immediately, and maybe we've followed up for 1, 2, 3 months, you should just proceed, because at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? You've already left that employment, and the terms of your exit or the terms of the exit were you're supposed to be paid these final dues. So if you're not paid those final dues, I would say follow it up immediately.
Beautiful. I want to request that you will hold a bit because there are a few other questions, and because we always have a timeline to close the official part by 8:15, we will jump these ones, but you will, if you hold a bit, maybe 5 minutes after 8:15, you can answer them. I'd like to call the person who was to pass a vote of thanks, that is Gashoka. I think is also one of the people who've just commented. And also just to remind people that we do this every Monday and we use same link. We do it same time as long as it's not a public holiday in Kenya. And it's gladly sponsored by City Gurus. If somebody wants to sponsor, you can also join us. Gashoka, are you able to come in and pass a vote of thanks on our behalf? Gashoka?
Yes, OPP.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for this honor. Actually, I'm also very happy. I'm giving thanks to a subject that I have really witnessed in little sense. And the fact that I work with businesses, I have seen it really affecting quite a number of businesses, and mainly because of fear, they don't manage to secure potential of workforce that is out here. Just going straight to passing a word of thank. One is to really appreciate the speaker for today. Yeah, very well broken down in terms of what people can always be able to absorb. And now, of course, law has always been that subject that we feel sometimes it has very big jargons and we always cut shortcut. But this has been very well articulated. Thank you very much. Also, I want to thank Power Monday. Power Monday is really continuing to elevate our mind. And we cannot ignore this fact that these are things that in the recent past we were not able to get, but now we are getting very good mindset and very good resource in terms of how we can be able to integrate in our day-to-day lives. Thank you very much for Monday, and may God continue giving the whole team, including OPP, the energy to do this more and more. I also want to thank everyone who participated. We can't take it for granted. I think we are all a circle that gives energy to each other. Whenever we always say Monday sometimes can be very frustrating, but this one gives all of us power to be able to see what next. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you a very prosperous time ahead, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Yeah, at the peak of it, we were 114. So the last number is so that's quite a good number of people and curious to learn. And so at this moment, I'd like to maybe just make announcement. I'm not so sure where Antonia is. She was having a problem with her laptop. So just to make an announcement, as we had said before, we are going to have our first meet and greet on the 28th of March, which is the last Saturday, and we are going to communicate the details, the venue. Usually it's the afternoon. It starts from noon to around 6. Sometimes people even stay there because it's connecting. It's connecting with people, networking, sharing thoughts, jokes, insights, things like that. You take it as an opportunity to interact with people and build new connections and learn. The next one will be on 25th of July. And so you also need to plan for that and meet people. And then finally, we are going to have our dinner, which will be on Friday, the 30th of October. We are shopping for the most suitable venue, and we will communicate this in good time, hopefully before end of January, so that you start planning for it. And we are also calling upon people who may want to join us for to sponsor the same and even to sponsor Power Monday. We are going to have our first home visit, a visit to children's home, usually Precious Blood Children's Family in Kangware, on 6th of June, which is the first Saturday of June. And this will combine sharing with them insights, mentorship, and giving, of course. And then the last activity usually is the first Saturday of December, which will be on 5th of December, and we will be doing Christmas with the children. Otherwise, thank you. We always record and post these on YouTube by Wednesday of the same week. So between now and Wednesday, we will post the same. We hope you continue to follow and to share with other people who could also learn and get empowered. Otherwise, also be sharing the Power Monday opportunity other people so that they can also learn. We grow together. If all of us are successful, then we have a successful community.